I mean, I did lose money, but
Yeah.
what were we actually doing in December? We were bringing together young people or business owners, and showing them how to start, sustain, and scale their businesses.
Yeah.
So, as much as the money may have been leaving my pocket, I feel like it was going towards investing in these 1,260 people's dreams. Being broke isn't always a bad thing. And being broke doesn't mean you're poor.
Welcome to Financially Incorrect, a place where we have a cheeky take on serious financial topics. I am your host, Barack. And remember, this is a podcast proudly sponsored by FX Pesa. If you'd like to understand more about trading, if you'd like to open a live account or a demo account, please do so. You can go onto their website, fxpesa.com. They do offer classes, physical classes at the different locations in Nakuru, Eldoret, Thika, Kitengela, and in Kampala. So if you'd like to understand more about trading, learn how to go about the process, please check them out physically at any of those locations, or you can check out any of the links in the description box below for you to be able to learn. And of course, they're the people who are funding our ability to be able to do this and keep bringing you cool money stories. We're looking at new partnerships. We have a really exciting one that's coming up in the next 3 weeks, so we'll give you a bit more information about that. And yeah, today, actually, no, before I get into today's episode, remember, this is still April, this is still Autism Awareness Month. So shout out to anybody who is either a caregiver, a parent, who's dealing with a child with autism, anyone who's teaching anyone with autism. I guess, just kudos, and if you know anyone who is in that particular line of work, please just give them a shout out as well. So today I have with me and I'll use this official title, the interim CEO of YouthPlus, Freddy Mulli. Welcome to Financially Incorrect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
You said this is your third. You told me this is your third official interview.
Yes.
A little nervous.
Not quite.
Yeah. You do a lot of public speaking.
Yeah. I do public speaking. Speaking
Yeah.
in front of an audience is a bit different than a studio interview, that I found at least.
Yeah.
In front of an audience, you can sort of look into the distance and still appear to be looking at them, but there's nowhere to hide in studio.
Yeah.
But here we are.
What are some of your tricks for, I guess, keeping composed when you're doing your public speaking?
I think knowing what I'm talking about goes a long way. Because there's always the nerves, the anxiety, the chance for anything to go wrong.
Yeah.
But if I'm very adept and I've prepared well about the subject matter, then
you're good.
It's very hard to then be thrown off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We had a really interesting discussion last week. I had Geoffrey of Dundo, the former head CEO of the NSC here, and we were talking about dressing, and because he thought he was dressed really, really casually. I thought it was extremely formal. Today you've come in a very formal attire.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm asking this not from a condescending point of view, but I'm genuinely just curious. What do you think your suit today, which is a very nice suit, I might add, with a nice watch, a really nice touch. What do you think your suit, says about you?
I think one, it says I came to work.
Right.
So I actually do have to go back to the office.
Right.
But then also it says that I'm prepared for a boardroom, I'm prepared for a dinner meeting, but also I'm prepared for networking and cocktails after work. I am kind of biased. I've been wearing a tie since I was about 8 years old, by virtue of the primary school I was in. So growing up and being conditioned with a shirt and tie almost every day of your life sort of grew on me. And so the question you should be asking is, what does me in casual dress look like? Yeah.
So you wear a suited, a tie, buttoned up tie, Monday to Friday?
Yes. Friday I might take a bit of a cheat day. I do enjoy wearing a shirt and a blazer at the very least. If it's a casual event, maybe a t-shirt and a blazer. Just something that speaks to the occasion, but also speaks a bit about who I am.
Yeah.
I'm ready to work, ready for business.
I used to like suits very much at some point. When I was working as a lawyer, traditionally, I think I'd buy a suit like every month, or 2 suits every month, and I really enjoy it. I still have my tie collection, but I haven't worn one, I think, in a year now. And in that, before that year, I think it had been like 4 years since I'd put on a suit and tie. I don't know if I could wear one now.
Yeah.
Yeah. other than weddings?
There is that, yeah.
Yeah,
Some of them actually demand you to have a suit on.
yeah, I don't know that I could, but anyway, but it's cool. Yeah, let's get into your money journey, right? And get right into the crux of the matter. I mean, for those guys who don't know, Youth Plus had one of the biggest, I guess, I don't know whether it's what genre you categorize your events.
So we were calling it the Nairobi's biggest business forum
Right.
of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. So had one of those last year. I from perception of outside looked very successful. We're able to get lots of people in and lots of speakers, and I mean, it looked really successful. Of course, you'll tell us if that was the case, but yeah. So we want to get into how that actually happened, the crux of the matter of what it came to put that together, and we also want to understand a bit more about you, and how I guess you ended up here at you know, tender age, so to so to speak. So I mean, I think when I was reading your bio, I think you went to Strathmore, if I'm not wrong, Strathmore Primary School.
Yes.
Right. What was the rest of your background like? Do you think, or would you consider yourself to have come from a privileged household?
Definitely not. So if we're going way back,
Yeah.
I'm the last of 4 children.
Okay.
Who for the last 31, 32 years have been raised by a single parent, my mom.
Okay.
Not just growing up in a single parent home, growing up with 3 siblings can be a lot, especially when my siblings, so the 4 of us are we're very stubborn about the things we want to do,
Right.
and our ambitions. We're very aggressive, very competitive, and you can imagine how that manifests at a very tender age when, for example, you're at the dinner table and there's that last piece of chapo left.
Right. Right.
And now it becomes sort of like, if you're strong enough and hungry enough, then
Yeah.
you'll get it.
Were you all boys, or was it a
No,
mix?
so
Yeah.
2 daughters, and then my brother, followed by myself.
Okay. And what
So
what is
two
the
sisters.
gap between you and your brother?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Between him and the second born is 2 years. Between him and the firstborn is 3 years. So between the firstborn and myself is 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, yeah. So you grew up in a really competitive, I guess, household. What about it makes you say that you didn't come from privilege? Because I mean, I would assume, you know, being in Strathmore. I mean, yeah, it's a good school.
I'd say actually how I ended up in Strathmore was peer pressure from nursery, but that's a story for another day. But I think I wouldn't describe it as privilege because we've all had to work for every single thing that we've gained or been able to achieve. There's never been a point whereby we had sort of like an insurance of, even if this doesn't work out, I can fall back on ABC. It's always, sure, pursue your dreams and go as hard at it as you can, but also make sure you're very prepared before you step out and take that leap. Because I think I wouldn't be wrong to say my mom gave all of us that latitude to find ourselves, figure out what it is that we like, what we're into, what we find enjoyable, and then through that finding our purpose in who we are, and then pursuing that purpose. And so the latitude was always there, but you know that you're doing it at your own risk. There's no options to fall back on if you do fail. But that also was a way of sort of building character. They usually say whatever you don't learn from home, the world will teach you. And so I think we're very fortunate to have lessons from both that competitive environment we were raised in, but then also what we learned once we stepped out.
Okay. Was money scarce when you were growing up?
Looking back, I'd say yes, but there's a very unique thing my mom used to do when we always knew and felt like we had enough.
Okay.
But looking back, there's things we missed out on, or let me say we didn't have the luxury of. So toys being a big one, football boots being a big one. Sometimes even how we get to school being a very big one. And so in the
when
moment,
you say how you get to school, like are you walking? Are you
No. So we'd either like carpool because we car, didn't have or couldn't afford like a school bus. Whenever we could use the school bus, then we did. But a lot of the time, going with neighbors and then them dropping you back home after school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what then did I mean, looking back, whether it's looking back or whether it was conscious at the time, what did your mom teach you about money? What did you understand about money? Whether it was from your mom or any of your older siblings.
I learned definitely from my mom. Being broke isn't always a bad thing, and being broke doesn't mean you're poor
Okay.
or you lack.
Okay.
Being broke means whatever resources, whatever finances you do have, they've already been allocated. So for me, as however old I was, going to ask for 70 shillings or 100 shillings for football, that wasn't in the budget. My mom is broke. So I knew it's not that there wasn't, it's that it's already been allocated.
Yeah.
It's already going to what
Yeah.
needs. So whatever it is that I want, can I live without it? And if I can, then perhaps it's not a financial priority. So that balance of needing versus wanting, I think I gained a very good understanding of from a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So get through. Did you finish at Strathmore? And I saw on your LinkedIn that you were also in St. Mary's
Yes.
at some point.
Yes.
It's quite a combination there.
So this is.
I was trying to take a shot at St. Mary's boys, but it's.
But I was only there
fine.
for 2 terms.
Yeah.
So I didn't really meet the grade to join high school in Strath.
Okay.
And so the next best option.
What did you get, if you don't mind telling me? Because that means you did KCP when it was out
KCP
of
was it 500 at the
500,
time?
yeah.
If I'm not wrong, it was 374.
Okay.
And Strath were only accepting 400 and above.
And above, yeah. I was with my. I said this on the episode last week. I was with my twin brother. We were playing Mount Kenya 2 weeks ago, and at some point we were talking about how difficult Swahili was in primary. So he was telling me if he had gotten like another 30% in Swahili, he would definitely have hit the 400 mark.
Yeah.
But yeah, we probably did KCP around the same time.
Yeah.
But okay, but 374 wasn't bad
For me, I felt like the world ended.
because of the Strathmore pressure.
Yeah, the expectation was
Yeah.
you do the 8 years and then you move on to the 4
Yeah.
in high school. So it took a while for me to sort of find my footing, especially academically, because I think I beat myself down a lot that I didn't get that 400. And so
Yeah.
I felt academically inefficient or inadequate. And
How did that manifest at that age?
I dove right into football. If I couldn't get the 400, let me get
Become a football
400
star.
now in sports.
Right.
And so for the longest time, I think my academics suffered because a lot of my attention, even in the classroom, outside the classroom, was purely on performing on the field.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did you end up going for secondary school?
So I did 2 terms at St. Mary's.
Okay.
And then at the end of the second term, transitioned into a school called Roslyn Academy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roslyn Academy. Roslyn Academy.
Yes.
What are we talking about, guys? Wait. Explain to me Roslyn Academy and financial limitations because that doesn't add up. Yeah.
So what I think till today, the way it's been explained to us is we were all educated by circles.
Okay.
So my mom, if I'm not wrong, was in 2 circles. One that was like part of her job sort of group, and then one that was outside. And so how you end up getting into, not even getting into, but being able to fit the bill for a Roslyn was through now the circles.
Right.
That's the narrative that was shared to me.
Yeah.
And I knew better than to ask too many questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My goodness. Shigo, please find out on just right now how much the fees at Roslyn.
It's definitely changed.
Roslyn is.
Because
Yeah, I mean, but even then, then
it was substantial.
Yeah, even then it was.
It wasn't an easy decision, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it may have helped that I was so it was me and my brother that were then now left to be done. So that may have helped.
Yeah.
But also there were expectations. There's certain grades I needed to keep up with.
Okay.
There's certain extracurriculars that I needed to keep up with.
Okay. Like at the school
at
now.
the school.
Like you need to maintain us and
I couldn't get below a 3.7 GPA.
Right.
I needed to be doing something beyond just schoolwork.
Okay.
And I feel, or I believe, I can't say it authoritatively because again, I wasn't in the room.
Right.
But I feel like some rebate or some sort of
scholarship sort of
did come into play.
Right.
Because
even
me as in my age now, the prospect of taking my kids to Roslyn is
it's daunting.
it's quite something.
Yeah.
for me, I'm in favor of Kadunzweni Primary, and they'll be good from
Yeah.
they'll be good from there.
Yeah. Okay. So what was it like at Roslyn? Because I mean, again, from my perception of what Roslyn was, and I think I probably interacted with Roslyn during games, inter-school games and stuff. And yeah, I mean, we're well off, and then predominantly white as well. So what was it like being in Roslyn now, and what do you think you picked up from there?
It definitely made me sort of grow into now who I could be.
Yeah.
I think so. Naturally, I've been a very shy, very introverted human being. But in Roslyn, I felt a sense of safety in being a bit more outspoken, not being afraid to try something and be wrong, or try and answer a question and be wrong. I think it opened my mind to one, socializing, and also socializing across different religions, different nationalities. I believe in my year, there was about maybe 10 to 15 of us that were African or African born.
Okay.
And then the rest were expatriates, either American, Korean, etc. So being able to fuse with different nationalities, different cultures, gave me that awareness of understanding there's some things that I can't say in front of groups, and that there's some things that I need to be a bit more careful because it might offend. It might be a joke in one language, but in another it might be an insult. So giving me that nuance of socializing, but I think more so finding that confidence. Because again, it would be very easy for me to sort of stay in my shell in an environment where everyone has a sense of who they are, and as such, they're not afraid to hide showing people who that person is. And so for me, I felt that challenge of I need to step up into who I am becoming. I need to find that confidence, find my voice. And slowly football definitely helped, because then if you are good at football, then you made friends easily. There's sort of like there's an elitism athletes, I guess, had.
Right.
But yeah, it was very different from the previous schools I was in.
Okay. How good were you at football?
So
objectively, if you can.
Objectively, I made it to the semi-pro level.
Okay.
Played 3 games for QFC in the county league before my uncles gave out. And at this time I was young, must have been 22, 23.
Okay.
Tried out for the under 23 team.
The national team.
National team.
Yeah.
That went a bit sideways. Not on the basis of merit or talent, but because someone wanted some things greased or someone's hands filled, and we opted not to go down that route.
Right.
And so, semi-pro career that I rarely speak of.
Yeah.
I feel like I had the potential to go far. But then again, going to different countries for tournaments, which the club I used to play for used to do, which was Vusi. Vusi Soccer would do trips to Denmark, trips to Sweden, but I always missed out on those because it was just too expensive.
Yeah.
But I feel like in a different timeline, and also if I had a different mentality, I could have gone a lot further.
Yeah. But I mean, clearly better than the average.
I'd humbly say so. I would humbly say so. As a
better than Collins.
As a left-footed, speedy winger, I think I'd do pretty well.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think it's always interesting how, especially like in high school, I don't think it transitions so much to university and other spaces, how athletes and like sports people have like an extra aura around them. I think teachers are usually a little bit more lenient, and what I enjoyed the most about being a sports person was leaving class early. You know, when you had games, when you have games and you leave like after lunch, and the whole class is watching you pack up and leave.
You feel kind of like you're a special class of students.
That was cool. Okay, so your time at Roslyn, you say you're educated, by SACCOs essentially, or your mom's getting, different SACCO loans sort of get you to pay your bills, pay your fees. You get through Roslyn. At this time, you're also playing football, going for the local tournaments. Some international ones are a bit too expensive. There's a question I'll come back to about privilege and this, but let's keep going. So you finished Roslyn. What happens next?
So I finished Roslyn in 2011, and I'm still very unsure about what it is I want to do in uni. I think I debated between aviation, between economics, because my sister did economics.
Okay.
And between something to do with marketing or entrepreneurship. We had a business class in our last year, and it was first thing in the morning, 8 or 5 a.m. And I feel like throughout my educational career, that business class I think is the one I've enjoyed the most, because it was always task oriented. So let's say you're an exhibitor at a exhibition, and you've come with ice cream, but then, and sort of without any warning, the weather changes, it starts raining heavily, but you have your stock of ice cream. So what do you do?
Yeah.
And that was the approach for a lot of the simulations we do in class. And I think that's what sparked a lot of that entrepreneurial spirit in me. So after graduating, again, I asked my mom if I can take a year off. Very unconventional. None of my siblings had done it before. But I think the way in which I presented it, she had the confidence to allow me to take a year off. Because I wasn't taking a year off to just do nothing. That was never an option in my mom's house. You had to be doing something.
Yeah.
And so I was like, the easiest thing I can figure out or think of is selling T-shirts. And so I began a T-shirt printing company. And my first client was actually Roslyn. And so I went back to them, asked them, so I told them, I'm doing this T-shirt printing thing. Do you guys have any needs? Do you have, whether it's a football team or it's a staff? So my first order was for 25 T-shirts for the support team. And I lost a lot of money from that first order. But yeah, that became a learning into now a second order and a third one.
Tell us the math of how you lost the money. Like, what happened?
So initially the order was 100 pieces.
Okay.
And I believe I had quoted 250 for each.
250 shillings.
250 shillings for 100 pieces.
Okay.
So I knew I'm making 25K. I knew my margins are about 70, 80 bob because of, again, the numbers.
Right.
Then they came back and said, instead of 100, they want 25. And naturally, I should have increased the cost.
Yeah.
Because also I'd be getting them at a higher price. Right. I think I was too concerned about making them happy as my first client and having them walk away if I become too expensive.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, the price is the same. So going to get the T-shirts myself is when I realized, man, this wouldn't be a good deal.
Yeah.
So then that started teaching me things about volumes and negotiating prices based on volumes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And even the inspiration to start the T-shirt business, was there pressure for you to, okay, now you said you want to take a year off, you figure out your financial situation for that year, you figure out how you're going to make money, because I'm not going to give you money just to hang out for a year. Is that where the pressure came from, or was that just entrepreneurial, I guess, journey starting?
For sure, I knew I wasn't getting money for free.
Yeah.
I knew if I needed to either meet friends or do anything, I'd need to be fending for myself.
Okay.
But also, again, there was an energy, there was a wave I was on after that business class. And during that business class, my friends and I would think of different things we can do just as side hustles.
Okay.
But they moved on to college.
Yeah.
And since I was left, I felt like the easiest thing to start and get off the ground was T-shirts, because what I'd do is I'd create the design, pitch it to a client, and then ask them for a deposit. With whatever deposit they give me, I can at least handle the cost of the raw material itself.
Right.
And so I can fulfill the order without getting paid the full amount. And so for me, it's just a matter of running around, running from point A to point B, then to the client, without really needing to put in any money, because at the time I didn't have any money to speak of. And then whatever they pay me as the balance is now what
you
would count
keep
as
essentially
profits. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you take away from this year? What's the biggest thing you take away from this year that you've taken a gap year essentially?
This business thing isn't hard. It sounds cool. So at the time, I think even today, one of my biggest business idols was Richard Branson. And I read a lot of his books, his articles, his story. And I was like, there's no reason why I can't be like him.
Yeah.
Stepping out in that 1 year, I realized just how stressful it can be.
Yeah.
How taxing physically it can be.
Yeah.
So I'd actually go myself to get the T-shirts from Mogadishu Road industrial area, take them to City Stadium to be printed. This time I'm bebanaing with like these big black garbage bags.
Right.
Carrying them. At the time, borders weren't a thing.
Yeah.
It was matatus or you're driving.
Yeah.
Again, which wasn't an option. So that sort of, I don't call it pain, but that struggle.
Yeah.
Made me realize if I'm gonna commit to this business entrepreneurship thing, then I better know what I'm getting myself into. A number of times I got sick, again, because of the nature of where I was going, the different interactions I was having, and again, working too hard. I think the pressure was more of me not wanting to appear as a failure. I mean, your siblings are already doing things. They finished with high school. They're either in uni or already working. I didn't want to be the one who didn't
Took the
follow
gap,
in
and then
that footstep. So for me, it was more of, let me make my name sort of mean something.
Yeah. Okay. So do you decide to go back to uni?
No, not yet. So this is 2011 into 2012. So 2012, I go back to Roslyn, still doing the t-shirts, but then now I have someone who can help me do the running around.
Yeah.
And I went back now to coach the middle school team. Football.
Okay.
Which we did.
So they hired you as a coach.
Did. Yeah.
Okay.
And coaching is one of these passions and loves that I don't think I've found anywhere else. There's something about, particularly with a young age group, trying to nurture that talent. Obviously having a better understanding of how the game should be played.
Right.
And being able to sort of strategize, but also compete on a live basis, like minute by minute,
right,
with opposing teams. There's an adrenaline rush I've gotten from that I've never felt even in a competitive work environment.
Right. Okay.
So
and how much are they paying you to coach?
I believe they gave me $100. It wasn't really a payment, more of a stipend.
All right.
So
per month?
For the season.
Okay.
And the season would be maybe 3 months, 2.5, 3 months.
Okay.
So that would take care of me going for practice and going back home.
Right.
So, and I was happy to do it. Honestly, it wasn't at the time. It wasn't about what I was getting paid what I was getting paid for the job I was doing.
Yeah.
It was about fulfilling that need in me to be in a nurturing environment, a hyper competitive environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how much longer does it take before you get to uni?
April 2013.
Okay. So you're out for about 2 years then?
Yeah, 2 years.
Okay.
April 2013, joined Strathmore Uni.
And what leads to you eventually going back to uni? Was it a tough discussion, or was it always like your plan to be like, I'll have to go back, or at some point you come and say, okay, this is now too much?
Actually, I don't even know if there was a discussion.
Yeah.
I think the question was, when are you going to collect your application forms from Strathmore?
Yeah.
So the understanding was, if it's not Strathmore, then bruh, you're way off.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and also my mom has a deep respect for the institution based on her experience when I was in primary. And so I don't think there was an alternative. It was Strathmore or nothing. And
when you're walking into Strathmore, do you have any, to pick up your application forms, do you have any thoughts around, oh my goodness, I didn't make it into secondary school. Am I going to make it into university?
At this point, no. I didn't have that fear. I think I had grown so much as an individual, but also my experience with these hustling adventures of mine and being able to do one or two things on my own, out of my own initiative, I felt like would give me a bit of an edge.
Yeah.
So even if the academics aren't as stellar as they'd require, there's more to me than being able to get an exam 100% correct.
Yeah.
And so I walked in with that feeling of, I'm good. I have an actual story to tell.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't go my way, I knew I was gonna figure something out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you get into you apply, get into Strathmore.
Yeah.
When do you get the idea for YouthPlus?
YouthPlus was born actually out of fear. Fear of failure, fear of unemployment. So by virtue of being in the best university in Kenya, and I promise you they haven't sent me to say that. By virtue of being in the best uni, I felt that getting a job after graduation is automatic.
Yeah.
Because the market wants Strathmore students. If you're in Strathmore, there's no way you can not get a job.
Yeah.
And so I did just a short survey with students from Strathmore and a few other universities. And I found that we are just as vulnerable as anyone else who's graduating from uni. It doesn't matter where you're graduating from.
Yeah.
And so I looked at why there are not enough jobs, but yet enough qualified students are graduating. And there was simply just a deficit in the number of jobs we were creating annually.
Yeah.
And so then the thinking began diving into, if we've exhausted the creating of jobs on this spectrum,
Yeah.
if there's one thing Kenyans do is hustle.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many friends I had in uni that were either doing PlayStation shops or thrifting clothes or doing some kind of economic thing.
Just to get a bit more money, yeah.
Exactly. Actually, I think if you weren't having a side hustle, it was a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so it was like, these businesses or these side hustles that young people have, how successful are they? And so I started getting into the research into that and found that most of them don't even make it 2 years. And so the theory became, if we can find enough young people that are already having businesses existing, understand the bottlenecks to those businesses and then mitigate those as much as we can, but not just mitigate them, but create avenues for them to grow.
Right.
Then what we're doing is creating an entirely new pool of jobs that didn't exist before. So for me, my solution to youth unemployment was building the capacity of these youth-led businesses and startups.
Yeah.
If we can get to a point where Njeri's thrift needs 5 new people to work at a thing every year, and then scale that by 1,000 or more, then that's 5,000
create
plus
the jobs that are needed.
New. And so that's the thinking behind how we got YouthPlus off the ground. And just background behind the name. A lot of conversations were happening around youth and young people. At the time, I believe the phrases that were catching on was the youth bulge and the youth dividend. But when I was looking at the press conferences, reading the reports, these conversations were not being had by young people. And so YouthPlus came about because it was our way of adding youth to the equation.
Right.
They usually say if you don't have a seat at the table, then you're on the menu. And I felt like that's the one place I don't think we should be.
Okay.
If we can't get a seat at this table, let's build a table of our own.
Okay, so you have this fantastic idea. You want to be able to, help the youth be able to get jobs using a youth platform essentially to make it happen. Where do you get the money to start, and how do you first start?
So my first sort of point into starting YouthPlus was creating a logo. So luckily, I was fairly competent with design software. Again, we could never just be in the house doing nothing. So I gravitated towards technology and programs and softwares and such. And so I created the logo, created a website.
The same logo that's there now?
No.
Okay.
I can't even show you that logo that we had back then.
Right.
I look back and I cringe, but we all start from somewhere. Created a website for it, created a document that I'd then go now shopping to sponsors, partners, etc. And that's how got things off the ground, got the opinion of my siblings, of my mom. They all thought there was something there. All had pieces of feedback that I could input. And the next step was now finding people my age, some of my friends, who can then be a part of this thing that we're trying to do. So that by the time we were getting to 2016, I believe we were a team of about 9, 10.
Okay.
And by team, I mean like a team of volunteers. Because again, I had no concept, or I hadn't grasped the concept of payroll or anything at that point. So just like, here's this thing, let's try it. If it works, we'll all make money. If it doesn't,
and at this point, what are you guys doing? Hosting events or?
No, we're planning for a conference.
You're planning, so all these 9 people, these 9 team of volunteers, you're planning for the first YouthPlus conference.
Okay. This was somewhere in June, I believe the 22nd to the 24th of June 2016.
Okay.
And we had booked All Saints as the venue.
Okay.
We had a fantastic lineup of speakers. If I'm not wrong, we had Peter Ndwati, who at the time was the Resolution. We had Shiro Aweru, Alex Nyaga of Parapet, Terian Chebet, Joe Gashira, Betty Mutimba, Judith Owiga of Akira Chicks. So the lineup was fantastic.
How did you convince these guys to come and speak? Were you giving them anything?
No. So a lot of them were donating their time.
Okay.
Some of them I actually ran into outside Nakumat at the time, introduced myself. This is what I'm planning on doing. What do you think? Do you mind coming over to speak? And they'd say yes.
Yeah.
Some of them I had sort of second degree relationships. So either my brother knew someone or my sister knew someone.
Yeah.
Was friends with one of them, or my mom was friends with one of them. And they all agreed to come free of charge.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you have your fantastic lineup.
Yeah.
You have a venue booked, and your team of 9 people, 9 volunteers working towards making the first YouthPlus event happen.
Yeah.
So how does that go?
It didn't go according to plan.
Yeah.
So we booked out a venue for 1,400 people, and much to our surprise, 49 showed up.
Okay.
I don't believe I've ever been in shock to that extent.
Yeah.
It was a very cold morning, and I
Yeah.
was like, maybe they're late because of the cold. They wanted like the cold to subside, the sun to come up.
Right.
So they'll be coming later.
Yeah.
But no, 49 is what we had to work with.
Yeah.
And for those 3 days, I needed to put on a brave face. But deep down, I was feeling a sense of abject failure.
I mean, sorry. So what I have to ask. I mean, if I'm a speaker and I'm coming and you tell me, yeah, we're expecting 1,400 people, and I'm like, cool, yeah, that's great. Then I come and I get on stage and there's 49 people. I'm assuming like it's a big room, and now it's not so big.
Yeah.
Or rather, it's a big room with few people on the seats. How do you have that discussion with me now?
As a speaker?
As a speaker, to be like, yeah, just speak to the 49 guys who showed up, and for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like a lot of them, because a lot of them were already entrepreneurs, and so they had that feeling of the first time you do something and it doesn't quite go to plan.
Yeah.
A lot of them were very encouraging, very nurturing. I think maybe they could see the sadness in my eyes, but none of them seemed to have a problem with it. Because they were all like, I mean, it's the first one.
Like, yeah.
The first time is always the hardest, but
Yeah.
the important thing is that you did it and now just follow through.
Right.
And so that gave me a sense of I can relax.
Yeah.
Because my biggest fear was I've asked these high-profile individuals
Yeah.
to leave their day jobs for an hour or two
Yeah.
during a weekday and then come and speak at this event.
Yeah.
I've told them 1,400 are coming, only 49 are here.
Yeah.
So my biggest fear was that me losing my credibility on that virtue that
Right.
I promised 1,400, 49 came.
Yeah.
But no, a
and
lot of
how
them
much were
were
you
very-
charging? How much were the tickets at the time?
For the 3 days, I believe it was 5K
Okay.
for the 3 days.
Yeah.
Which was very low relative to the other similar events that were happening at the time.
Okay.
And it was intentional for the price to be that low because, again, we're
You
looking
wanted-
at young business owners. We don't want to price them out of it.
And how much did it cost you to put this event together?
Wow. I remember at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I had debt that accumulated to 442,995 shillings.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at the time, what was the plan to pay for that event?
I had no plan.
Yeah. But the plan was tickets.
So prior, the plan was let's get sponsors on board.
Yeah.
These are young people. Every company, every brand wants to work with young people.
Yeah.
So I remember we did have a number of meetings, which went well.
Yeah.
But what the support we got was not monetary.
It was in kind.
It was in kind. So
Okay.
Airtel did a blast for us on their network. Nescafe came through with hot drinks and snacks.
Right.
The county gave the venue, so to speak.
Right.
Or they promoted the venue.
Subsidized, right.
Yeah. And then Resolution also chipped in. So things like notebooks, pens, stationery and such. And yeah, I think those were the partners that we had at the time. The British Council sponsored, I think, 5 people to attend.
Okay.
So
So
a
it
lot
didn't
of
cost
was-
you a shilling to actually put up the event
No, it didn't. But I
Okay.
walked away with, a mountain of
with the
debts.
400 and so. And at this point, are you looking around at your team of 9 volunteers and being like, okay, this 440,000, we're splitting it 9 ways. Everybody come with your whatever,
Funny enough,
80K or
no.
whatever. Yeah.
Actually, most of them didn't even know about the debt.
Oh, okay.
Because I felt like if I was to disclose that to them, they may lose sight of the vision, or they may be intimidated into feeling this one failed, this one flunked.
Yeah.
Let's not try again.
Okay.
And so I sort of took it on my shoulders. I believe I told 2 people at the time, Duncan and Christine. And I was just like, I don't know how it'll be sorted, but don't worry, I'll figure something out. Because again, I invited them to take a leap on this idea. The same way I invited the speakers, the same way I invited the partners that we had.
Yeah.
And so I felt that personal responsibility of it didn't work out, so let me be the one to pick up the pieces.
Okay. Yeah. So how do you eventually end up paying off that 440?
So,
yeah.
I don't know if it's possible to get ulcers as a 24-year-old.
Yeah.
But I was definitely on edge.
Yeah.
So I got a call once. I don't remember what day it was. This was maybe 2 months after the event happened.
Yeah.
And I've been dodging calls. I've even gotten a second SIM.
Right.
And then I get a call one day and get the guy on the phone is like, where are you located? Because we're coming tomorrow to collect items for the payment of this debt.
Right.
And I mean, at the time I had very little, but that little was everything to me. So just my bed, a table, maybe a 2-seater sofa, and like a cooker.
Right.
It doesn't even meet the 400 plus K cost.
Right.
And I think that day I called everyone I knew, or everyone who I thought would be willing to take that risk on me. And at this point, as everyone, I'm not including family or my mom.
Right.
Because that would have been a very difficult conversation. But that's a different story. Peter, actually, I called Peter and I was like, I really need your help. These guys are coming tomorrow.
To auction.
Are you able? Are you able to help me? And he did, and I was able to pay him back, I believe, after 6 months. He gave me a loan at 0% interest, which was kind.
So he gave you the money for everything.
Yeah. And that's how I was able to escape being auctioned. Just by the skin of my teeth.
Right. Why was your mom not an option?
Because I had been given this freedom to be myself, pursue my dreams. I had the practice of the 2 years where I was actually doing business on and off, and I felt like a failure to that degree was purely unacceptable. And I felt I would have been greatly humiliated if I had gone back home and was like, so kumenda hivi.
Right.
Now I need to pay someone 400K plus.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to speak for what her reaction would have been. I'm sure it would have been supportive. She's always been very supportive of us. But I was not, that wasn't my first option. As a sort of place for redemption.
Okay.
I felt like I needed to, since I took this leap, let me figure it out and then now come and report back about what happened.
Okay. And then how did you pay back Peter in those 6 months? What are the things that you were doing that allowed you to pay back after 6 months? Because I'm also wondering if you were able to, slowly chip at the figure then the 2 months prior, you could have equally been chipping at the figure.
If they gave me that much time, definitely. But then also, whatever time they would have given me would have come with an interest cost.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be paying the 442, I'd be paying a lot more.
Right.
But now when that sort of didn't go to plan, between that, let me say August and about Feb, I went back into the t-shirt thing. It was a business I knew. It was a business where I already had contacts of potential customers and clients. And now it was just about moving volume. Because again, if I moved 1,000 t-shirts, the margins are much better than doing 25 or 50. And went deep into that until I could slowly then pay him back.
Okay, so literally you got back into the t-shirt business purely just to be able to pay him back.
Yeah.
Okay, and at this time, are you working any other jobs? Are you?
No, I'm still a student.
You're still a student at this point.
At Strath,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to move because I know we don't have like too much time. So I want to move literally from that first YouthPlus event to the one that happened last year. Right.
Yes.
First question I'll ask is, how much does Vusi cost? Yeah. How much does it cost to have Vusi at your event?
I actually don't know if I'm allowed to disclose.
Is it an NDA?
There are documents that we have to sign.
Right.
What I will say is, given the kind
Is it in the hundreds of thousands or the millions?
So first of all, it's not even in the shillings.
Yeah.
I would say upwards of 10,000 USD.
Yeah.
Yeah. But given the kind of delivery he embarks on and how the session actually went,
Yeah.
definitely worth every penny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You felt it was worth every penny that you spent.
Yes. Actually, feel like maybe because we did position ourselves as a youth-led organization,
Yeah.
so I feel maybe there was a lot of grace we were given.
Yeah.
But he definitely over-delivered.
Yeah.
During that event.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you got the money to pull this thing off, because there were all sorts of billboards, everywhere. I mean, you had a good number of speakers on there as well.
Yeah.
So how did you raise the money to make that happen?
A lot of it was my savings, but that didn't come until later. We did have very successful sponsorship conversations with two institutions, but then 2 weeks prior they pulled out, and so we were stuck in a place of, okay, now what do we do? I remember reaching out to Wandia at Vivo, just to have the briefing of what her session would be and then explaining how everything else is going. And then she offered to come in with some sponsorship, which was really so timely. So that helped ease the burden quite a bit. We also had partnerships from teams like ALX or Red Bull. But in the case of ALX, it was more of buying mass tickets so that a lot of their students could attend. The rest of the funding came from loans and my personal savings.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how much so the first YouthPlus event cost 440,000 plus. Yeah. How much did this one cost?
This one, very luckily, we ended, and by the time we were ending and I was clearing the last person's payment, we were at worst maybe negative 10,000.
Okay.
Which for me was a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Because we did perhaps take on a bit more than we could chew.
Okay.
But it was one of those things where let us tie our shoes and chew gum.
So you still didn't make money on
Oh no, we didn't.
The last event.
We didn't make money. But it was
how much must it cost for you to not have, you had lots of people there for 3 days.
So the good thing was so we had about 1,260 or so people that attended physically. We had maybe 60, 70 that were tuned in virtually. So a lot of, and the virtual was in USD, it was 20 USD. So that helped quite a bit. And at the time, the dollar was the rate was very friendly if you had USDs. I literally had to I had to liquidate my MMF, had to liquidate my CDSC, because we were too late in the game for us to not have it go well. And at this point, it became a matter of our credibility. Who are these YouthPlus guys, and can they actually do what they said they're going to do? And for myself, I was like, let me count the cost later, but we've set out to do X, Y, Z, and so we have to deliver on it. So I may be a CEO, but I'm a very broke CEO right now. Yeah.
Do you regret it at all? I mean, like right now, financially speaking, if you're saying you're liquidating all of your savings to be able to have this event, do you? And then the event doesn't make money. You had negative 10,000 shillings, but it doesn't make money. Do you? No regrets?
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely not. It was this is going to sound privileged.
Yeah.
It was a very small, in the grand scheme of things, it was a very small price to pay for me pursuing my dream. I don't know if it's confidence or if it's naivety.
Yeah.
But I believe in my ability to make money, and so I know whatever we spent on that event, I'll be able to recoup it. It'll definitely take time, but we'll get back to zero. But what we did was to show how a group of, on average, 26-year-olds, what they can do with very little support. We had the support of Vivo and Shopzetu, we had the support of ALX, and that was about it. We were able to demonstrate that, one, we're not really asking for handouts, we actually have value that we're delivering. and 2, our execution is impeccable. And the last one was, we are actually speaking to an audience. I think given the number of people that showed up, given the number of people that tuned in virtually, the virtual ones, we were spread across 5 different countries. Again, completely unexpected. And so I focused on the small wins and how we can build on those wins. Because in the first 3 months of this year, we've been able to build on that momentum. Because now our credibility is truly intact, where people know if you're coming to work with YouthPlus, this is what you can expect. If we say we're going to deliver XYZ, you trust that we can deliver it because we've proven it before.
Okay.
And so it was more of, let's make a statement, let's show them what's possible within a very small group of young people.
Okay. So now you're in the process of, I guess, rebuilding your savings and replenishing your accounts. What do you do? I mean, are you salaried from YouthPlus, or do you do other things that would keep your accounts and allow you to pay your bills?
Yes, so I am salaried by YouthPlus.
Yeah.
If you ask me, not enough. But it's enough to get by. I think what last year taught me was financial discipline, and being able to make a very hard choice, which was living on less.
Okay.
Again, from childhood, we've always lived on just enough. And as much as I do like nice things, I have that ability to know for the next 3 months, I can't enjoy some of these nice things. Maybe I can't go and watch the game with friends, or I can't go out of town. So it's taught me financial discipline more than anything. So I don't mind living on less as long as I know it's going to pay off at some point. I think that idea of delayed gratification has always been one I've been very, very in love with. So let me forgo at present. But I know it's going to come back eventually.
Okay. My final question is, I mean, financially speaking, cleaning out your savings, cleaning out all your accounts for a business venture, I don't know how financially correct that is. But I guess my thoughts are around, if it doesn't pan out, or what do you think would need to happen for you to regret that decision? And I mean this, and I mean this from like let's be real, not in the sense of a TED talky, you can't regret any decisions you ever make, and no. Like I mean, like genuinely speaking, if you are not able to pay your bills, if you are not able to keep going, like would you be like, oh my goodness, I spent all my money on this event, and I'm now unable to live day to day, so to speak.
You told me not to sound TED talky.
To give a realistic response. It can sound TED talky, but a realistic response of, honestly, we do live in a life where there are regrets.
I mean, I did lose money, but what were we actually doing in December? We were bringing together young people or business owners and showing them how to start, sustain, and scale their businesses. So as much as the money may have been leaving my pocket, I feel like it was going towards investing in these 1,260 people's dreams. Because a lot of them, after walking out of that event, some of the testimonials, some of the things they tell you when they walk up to you, you can't really put a price on.
Okay.
I'm not ashamed at my old age. Luckily, as a single man, I have no qualms about calling up my mom and saying, things are thick, I need to move back home. Give me a few months, let me restart. I don't think I have that pride that would let me not do that. And so what would it take for me to regret? Wow. Truthfully, I don't know if I've thought about it. Because for me, I see the bigger picture. From those 1,260 people, 2 of them or 3 of them are going to do fantastic things. And to know that we played a small part in that story feels very rewarding. So I haven't thought about it at length, but it's not something that I think I would. I mean, there's decisions within that process I would take that I didn't take this time. But would I wish the entire thing didn't happen? It's hard for me to say yes.
Okay.
I take the loss, but I take it with pride.
Yeah.
We did a fantastic job. At my own personal expense, yes. But I'll be fine. I'm a big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I guess we'll come. We'll bring you on when we get the next one, and then
Please do.
we'll
Please do.
see. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see what's changed.
Hopefully a lot
Yeah.
of the things go a lot better than they
Is
did
the next
last year.
one at the end of the year again this year?
Yes. So I don't know if it's premature to mention the
Yeah.
dates.
But it's
But
happening
it's
at
in
the end of
December.
it's in
It's in
December
December of
this
this
year.
year. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on Financially Incorrect. Thanks for giving us your story. Thanks for telling us about how YouthPlus came to be. I definitely know that I did not know that full story. And yeah, thanks for being honest.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah. That was Financially Incorrect. We will see you guys on the next episode.